This is the third session of PSALA's Wellness, the New Professional Priorities series. Today, Darien Fleming will be teaching us about self-awareness. Darien is an ICF certified coach and trainer. She holds a BA and JD from Boston College. She started her career as an attorney at AM Law 100 firms in Boston. Her passion is training attorneys and those who work with them in critical interpersonal skills and also determining, setting, and achieving goals. If you have not had the pleasure of attending one of Darien's sessions before, please know that you will learn useful tools for easing the chaos the previous year has brought to us. But these tools can also help you during the best of times as well. Please join me in welcoming Darien.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Hi, everybody, and Happy New Year. So here we are. This is the time of year where we set intentions, right? Lots of us are setting intentions, and generally those intentions around our self and our self-growth. And we thought that it might be useful if today we focused on self-awareness, which is so critical to any goal setting exercise, any intention setting exercise. You need to have some self-awareness to have useful goals. So what is self-awareness, right? What is it? It's really having a good, clear sense of who you be, right? Who do you show up as? What makes you tick? So it's understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, the motivations, the values, all of that is about self-awareness. And as you begin to grow your self-awareness, you're going to be able to make conscious choices that serve you, conscious choices about your life so that you can take appropriate action around, let's say, growing yourself. Right? So if we want to set intentional goals, we want you to have self-awareness so that those intentions are actually useful to you. So my goal today is to help you understand yourself better. We're going to talk about your strengths and how to leverage those. We're going to explore your thoughts and mostly the negative thoughts that actually hold you back. And then we're going to end with some positive intelligence. And that really is how to get our brains to help us rather than to limit us. So let's start with strengths. And here's why I like starting with strengths when we talk about self-awareness, because the research around what happens when we use our strengths is so powerful. So I'm going to give you a couple of stats. Here we go. This comes from Gallup. You might know Gallup as the pollsters. They've been studying workplace engagement and strengths for over 20 years plus. Okay, and here's what they found. That people who use their strengths every day are 8% more productive. That's a huge number in law firms, right? 8% more productive. Imagine what that would mean for billable hours, which is our widget in law firms. We are 6 times as likely to be engaged in our jobs if we get a chance to use our strengths every day. And we are 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life if we get to use our strengths every day. So excellent quality of life, how does that factor in? Because you're not pushing a ball uphill every day. When you use your strengths, you're in the flow, right? You're in that natural flow state. Things come easily to you. And if it's not a struggle, you feel really good about where things stand. If you can do that at home and you can do that at work, that leads to excellent quality of life. So you see why in our self-awareness, starting with strengths really matters. Leaning into your strengths in stressful times and under pressure is also really important, because when we are under pressure, we don't have time to think about how to do something, right? We're stressed. We can't be figuring out a new method in a new way. We have to go back to what we're naturally good at, right? Our natural state of being. So in disruptive times like these, knowing our own strengths, it's essential because we have to go back to the core. What do I do best? How do I use what I do best to tackle my to-do list, to tackle what's in front of me? Okay, and so our strengths, which is our natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving, is what we need to lean into. And when we're stressed in disruptive times, when we have this chaos around us, right, we need to have a truth, a solid truth. And your individual strengths are a solid, unchanging truth. Okay, they are part of you. And so that's why it's so important to know what those are. So I will say to you this, that if you do not have a sense of what your strengths are, I'm glad you showed up today because we are going to help you identify them. So we want you to know what they are, and we don't want you to think about them in a time when you're stressed because we can't think clearly. Remember, the last time we met, for those of you who are with us, we talked about you being in reactive mode when you're stressed. We talked about it in the context of that Eisenhower matrix, when you're under the quadrant one, sort of got to be happening right now, it's urgent and important, and we become hyper-focused and we cannot think clearly. That is not a time to think about, how do I lean into my strengths? If you don't know what they are, how are you going to do that? So let's do it now together. Here's what the research shows. Humans are actually really bad at identifying their own strengths. No surprise, humans are really good at finding their own weaknesses. So I'm going to explain to you why that is later on, but right now we're going to focus on how do I figure out what my strengths are. So we're going to use this acronym SIGNS, signs of strength. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to talk you through these, and I want you to use the chat feature. If any of these give you an indication of your own strengths, tell me. I want to know what they are. If you are comfortable sharing with the whole group, great. If you just want to share them with me, fine. But I want to know what your strengths are. So the first thing is I want you to think about a success, something that you have been really good at, right? That you're proud of. What did you learn quickly and just kind of like, I got this. I want you to think of something you're proud of, something that you're really good at, a success. Now I want you to think about your instinct, activities that you're naturally drawn to. Oh, did I stop sharing? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Activities you're naturally drawn to. So what activities are you naturally drawn to that you look forward to doing? Right? Think about that. Great. What about things that we're going to go growth. It feels really easy to you when you have to learn it. Feels really easy to you when you're growing in this area. It's like, oh yeah, I want to read that book. Oh yeah, I want to take a course on that. This feels really good. I'm in the flow. I'm really good at caring for folks in the pandemic. I'm really good at building relationships. That's what's coming in. Love it. Keep them coming. What about needs? Where do you feel you need to spend time? When you're done, you feel totally and completely accomplished. I need to spend more time doing that. Oh, look at this. I'm really good at creating and mentoring new employees. Another one, I'm good at organizing projects and streamlining processes. Yes. I'm a hypervigilant cycle. It's been a long time since I've been out of this high stress, hypervigilant cycle, but you're going to get into something really amazing. I like updating policies. Great. I need to spend more time taking care of myself. Yes. Owning. I need to own my own stuff. I'm not going to own other people's stuff. Excellent. So keep thinking about these signs of strength. This may not resonate with you. You might be saying to me, listen, lady, I don't know, success, instinct, I don't have any of that. And here's what we know. It's really hard to identify your own strengths. So I provided in the calendar invite a list of workplace strengths. So you have that as a tool. You can go through that workplace strengths and start highlighting the things you're like, oh yeah, no. Oh, is this what she's talking about? Oh, I'm good at this. I'm good at this. I'm good at this. Start highlighting. Those are strengths. Another tool in your toolbox for figuring out your own strengths is talk to your colleagues. Your colleagues know what you're good at. Your colleagues come to you for help in certain areas, right? So we want you to be relying on your colleagues to tell you what you're good at. It's a wonderful tool. There's also one other tool, and that is the Clifton Strengths Assessment. If anyone knows me, you know I'm a little bit obsessed with the Clifton Strengths Assessment. What it does is it identifies your natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. It spits out 34 talents that you have, strengths that you have, and it puts them in order for you. And if you need help growing your self-awareness here, I highly encourage you to take this assessment. It's cheap, it's 20 bucks, it's easily accessible, it takes 30 minutes. And if you need help interpreting your results, you have my contact information. You should reach out to me. I am happy to help you interpret your results because we want you to be in a position where you can lean into your strengths, okay? It's really important because so much good is possible. Now, part of self-awareness is knowing our own weaknesses, right? And I told you that we're really good at identifying our own weaknesses. Well, I have no doubt that you'll be able to fill up my chat box much more easily about what you're not good at than what you are good at, okay? But I'm not going to ask you to fill up the chat box with what you're not good at. But if you're a person who thinks, I actually don't know, weaknesses are things that feel depleting, that leave you frustrated, places where you don't have a lot of confidence, right? Areas where even though you keep trying to learn it, it's really, really slow. Those are signs of weakness, how we can identify our own weaknesses. But know this, that often our weaknesses are misapplied strengths. And here's what I mean by that. If we are focused on using our strengths, we almost always stay out of falling into the bad stuff, the stuff that we're not good at. So let me explain to you. I happen to have a natural strength for igniting people into action, right? I have this influencing power where I get people to take action, start, do it. My weakness is that I'm a highly impatient person. And so when I focus on my igniting strength, when I focus on being intentional about that and really nurturing action, I generally don't fall into my impatience tendency. Okay, so when we apply our strength and we use it consciously, we often stay out of our weakness, okay? So if you're a person who wants to use the strength sheet as a weakness sheet, do it. Go ahead, highlight the things that you're not good at, the things that feel depleting, the things that frustrate you, right? Understanding both what we're good at and what we're not good at matters, growing our self-awareness, okay? So I would be remiss if I did not share with you that your greatest opportunity for success, your greatest opportunity for achievement in your job is using your strengths, okay? The research shows that when you focus on weakness, you prevent failure. When you focus on strengths, you have exponential performance increase. When you focus on weakness, you prevent failure. And when you focus on strengths, you can have moments of pure excellence. Okay, we want you to have moments of excellence. We want you to be awesome. And when we focus on strengths, that's how we get there. Here's the challenge. Most of us spend 80% of our time focusing on our weaknesses and 20% of our time focusing on our strengths. I want you to flip it. I want you to make the year of 2021 about focusing on your strengths 80% of the time and your weaknesses 20% of your time, okay? So that you flip the equation. So what do I mean by that? Well, what does that actually mean, Darien? This is what it means. I have a weakness when it comes to numbers and accounting, okay? So I could spend my year taking an accounting class, okay? Focus on weakness, fill that weakness, get better at that weakness. Or I could hire a public speaking coach. I could read every book there is on presenting. If I switch the equation, I will spend more time being better at presentations because I might have moments of excellence rather than taking an accounting course. Because if I take the accounting course, I'll have this much increase. I will prevent failure, okay? But I won't have moments of greatness, and that's what we want. The research shows that your ability to be outstanding increases substantially when you lean in and focus on your strengths, okay? So that's what I want your 2021 to be. Now, I told you that it's not enough just to have the self-awareness. We need to have conscious action next, right? We take our self-awareness so that we can create good intentions, create good goals, take actions that really serve us. So once we know what our strengths and weaknesses are, we need to do something with it. And I say lean into strengths. What do I mean by that? It's if you are a good learner, it's taking assignments that stretch you. We don't want you doing rote things. If you're learning, you need stuff that you've never done before, things that excite you because they're new. If you are like one of the people who said, I'm really good at creating process and formulating procedure, do more of it. Find things in your organization that need routinization, that need structure, right? Our legal departments need more than ever before. If you are one of the people who said, I'm really good at developing others, I really like mentoring, create the training opportunities, create the social events and the activities for the team. That's what leaning into your strengths are. If you're a person who loves to innovate and you think you're really good at coming up with ideas, help leadership think through remote work and this new normal, right? That's what leaning into strengths is. That's the first action you can do. Second, leverage your strengths to help you with the deficiencies, right, in your knowledge and your skills. So what do I mean by that? We could spend all of our time thinking about what we're not good at and saying, I can't do this, I'm not good at it, I'm not going to do my accounting, I'm not good at it. What I do when I have to do my accounting, which is at least once a month, much to my chagrin, I lean into another strength that I have. So in StrengthsFinder, one of my strengths is achiever. And this is the ability to just drive, put your head down and get stuff done. To the exclusion of everything else, you just have this stamina. And so when I have to do accounting, I say, Darien, lean into achiever. You've got this. You can do this. Is it easy? No. Am I good at it? No. But I use my achiever to accomplish the thing I'm not good at. That's what leveraging your strengths is all about. We want you to offer up your strengths. So if you have a colleague who's working on a project and they say, oh, I need help organizing this, or I've got to do this and I'm not really good at it, and it fits your strength set, help. Volunteer to help. We want you doing more of what you do best. Offering up your strengths is a great way to do that. Lastly, partner with one another. So if you know your strengths and your weaknesses, rather than doing the accounting myself, I can partner with somebody who can help me do it. I can hire somebody, but if I were in an organization like you all are, I can actually use my colleagues to fill my gaps. So many wonderful things happen when we begin to collaborate in this way. We're able to do more together than we were on our own. This is how we take the action to use what our self-awareness has given us. So any questions about this? I thank Ren for posting in the chat that it's the Clifton Strengths Assessment. Yes, you can go to Clifton Strengths Assessment, and that's how you access the assessment. It's really great. Give yourself about 30 minutes of time to take that assessment. You'll need it. It needs to be uninterrupted time to get your results. Okay, so let's move on to negativity bias. How are we doing on time? Pretty good. So it's one thing to know what you are good at, and that's important. That's really an important part of self-awareness. But we also need to understand what's holding us back. What's getting in our way of living our best life, right? The concept is called negativity bias. Okay, negativity bias. So here's the situation. Our brains are very complex, and we have about 70,000 thoughts per day. And of those 70,000 thoughts, 95% of them are the same as they were the day before. So we are creatures of habit. Our thoughts go where they're trained to go. Of those thoughts, 80% of them are negative. 80% of our thoughts are negative. This is negativity bias. Our brains are hardwired to scan for the negative, okay? They want to keep us alive. That's what our brains want to do. So the brain is constantly scanning for danger, okay? We look for negative information so that we can stay out of danger. We learn more, for example, from pain, putting our hand on a hot stove, than we do pleasure. We hold on to negative interactions with colleagues more than the positive interactions with colleagues, okay? Our brains are like Velcro for all the bad and Teflon for the good. And here's the reason for it. In our ancestors, the true cavemen, right? They were scanning for lions and tigers and bears that literally could eat them alive. Right? So this is why the brain developed the way it did. Here's the challenge. Society has developed further, and our brains have not yet caught up to how society has advanced. Okay? So our brains have not evolved as much. And so here we are with this brain that is scanning for constant danger. And we actually begin this process of looking for danger at a very, very early age. So there's a psychologist, Donald Kalshad, and he says that as children, we start scanning for danger, and we end up developing self-care mechanisms to help us. So that if we see a perceived danger, physical or emotional, often emotional, we create a self-care mechanism so that we don't have to feel bad or feel in danger. Okay, I'm going to tell you why this all matters, okay? So here we have these self-care mechanisms because we're scanning for danger, and this guy, Shirzad Chamine, he puts it in real context for us. So this book called Positive Intelligence, I highly recommend it, Positive Intelligence. He tells this story about these self-care mechanisms and the impact of them from child to adult. And he says, okay, here's what happened to me. When I was a little boy, I was born into a family. The moment I was born, my dad's grocery business went out of business. And my family blamed me. They blamed me at birth for creating bad karma in my family. So much so that they actually changed his name to get out from behind the bad karma. So here's this little boy, right, being blamed for something completely out of his control. And so what did he do? He saw the danger. He saw the danger of not being loved. And what he decided to do was focus on achievement. So his whole childhood, he spent achieving. I am just going to focus on results. I am just going to achieve. That's going to get me love. That's going to get me a happy life. And this is how I'm going to do it. And it worked really well. And because we're creatures of habit, he becomes an adult and he focuses on what? Results, achieving, and nothing else, no relationships. But here's what happened. That way of thinking prevented him from actual success. All he focused on were results, and he never succeeded. He never got to where he wanted to get. He wasn't good at relationships. He didn't become what he wanted to become, which was, professor. He didn't get to do those things because he kept bumping up against this way of being, okay? And as a child, his self-care mechanism totally worked. But as adults, what happens is we don't need the self-care mechanism anymore. We've got a completely, totally functioning brain that can reason, right? And we can determine our own boundaries, set our own negotiations, realize that our parents are totally flawed and blaming us for, our business is going under. And so we have this prefrontal cortex that can make all these decisions, and yet our brains are creatures of habit. And so they go to that old way of thinking, and all of those self-care mechanisms become saboteurs, okay? Saboteurs. Saboteurs are mischief makers in our mind. They are internal enemies. Some people call them inner critics. Some people call it negative self-talk. If anybody's read anything by Brené Brown, she calls them gremlins, okay? They are automatic and habitual mind patterns, okay? And they each have their own little voice. They each have their own beliefs. They all have their own assumptions that are constantly working against our best interest. It is not a question of whether or not you have them. Saboteurs are a universal phenomenon. Every single one of you on this call has them. The question is, how loud are they? How in control are they? What do they sound like? That's all that we're questioning, okay? Saboteurs have reasons why you cannot do something, why you shouldn't do something, why what you really want to happen is not going to happen. They're really good at taking a tiny little grain of truth and spinning an entire tale out of why you can't do something, okay? Saboteurs sound like you're not enough. It's totally your fault. If I do this, I'll disappoint people. Why bother? Because ... If I do this, I'll be judged. I'm not going to do this. I'll do it wrong. That's what a saboteur sounds like. I imagine you're having some aha moments. Yeah, I got that. That sounds like me. That sounds like your saboteur, okay? It's not you. It's this ingrained pattern that was created when you were little that has just holding on because we're creatures of habit. It is very hard to recognize saboteurs at first because they're so ingrained in us. We don't even actually know that, oh, that's a saboteur. So if this is piquing your interest and you want to know and you want to grow your self-awareness around what your saboteurs sound like, I highly recommend you take the saboteur assessment. It is free and it is only 5 minutes. And it's at positiveintelligence.com. Okay, so it's this guy's book, but he provides the free assessment online. And it's really fascinating. It identifies at least 9 saboteur voices, sort of what they sound like, okay? And some of yours will be really loud and some of them will be really quiet because, again, how we were raised shapes what our voices sound like. And here's the best news. The moment you can identify what your saboteurs sound like, you reduce their power and control, okay? Just by identifying them in the first place. We want you to know what they sound like, know what their beliefs are, know what the patterns are, know what their thoughts are, know what the emotions that spring when we hear that. Because in effect, you're going to build a mugshot. What am I looking for? What do I need to be on the lookout for so that the moment I hear it, I can say, I don't want to follow that thought. This is a thought of my saboteur. This comes from not what I'm currently dealing with, but an old mind pattern, right? We actually have to be conscious and intentional about saying to our negative inner voices, I don't want you here. This is not serving me. I want to be clear with you. This is very hard work. I told you that saboteurs are a universal phenomenon. They are. They do not go away. They become reduced. We silence them. But what will happen as you do this work is you'll hear it again and you'll say, wait a second, I already did this work. Yep. And you have to say, hey, this is not the time, go away. And you have to keep doing that over and over and over again. Often my clients feel like they are talking to themselves. They report to me, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm talking to myself all the time. Yes, that's what we start by talking to ourselves. And then we create the new neural pathway and you don't need to talk to yourself anymore. Your thoughts will go where you want them to go and where they're trained to go. But right now they're trained to go where the saboteur wants them to go. Okay? Any questions about this concept? It's a biggie. It's tough. It's hard. Okay, so because this is so hard, I like to end with something positive. And I know that I told you that 80% of our thoughts are negative. So it's like, well, how do I change that? I don't want to be that. Well, of course, we want to have more positivity in our life. And here's the great news. We can. We used to believe that our brains could not grow. Once we were, 25, 26, when we kind of set as humans, we used to think that was it. You were a fully cooked goose. Not anymore. The study of neuroplasticity has shown us that we absolutely can create new patterns. We absolutely can create new neural pathways. It takes time and commitment. I imagine there are many of you on this call who work out, right? You lift weights. And the more you lift, the stronger your muscle appears. I know, this is not impressive. That's okay. Do not look at me for this example. I do a lot of these mental exercises, not as much with my arm weights, but this is what we're doing with our brain, okay? We've got to keep lifting the weights day after day after day to create the new neural pathway. The way I describe it to many of my clients is we actually have to hammer out a new highway in our brain, okay? And you've watched road work. They don't put a new road in a day, if only, right? We've got these traffic jams for weeks because that's how long it takes to hammer out a new highway. And that's what you're doing with some of this, rewiring of our brain. So Sean Aker, who is of the Happiness Advantage, he has done a lot of research on what makes people happy. He actually found that if you engage in one positive intelligence exercise for at least 3 weeks, you will increase your positive mindset. So that means you will reduce the percentage of negative thoughts and increase the amount of positive thoughts. So I'm going to leave you with a number of exercises you can take on over the next 30 days and see what happens. Now, you've got to commit to this every single day. So the first one is keeping a gratitude journal. I imagine there are many of you who are familiar with the concept of gratitude journal. So here's the idea. The idea is capturing things that you are grateful for. It helps to train the brain to look for the good. So if you have to, and you know you're going to capture at the end of the day things that you're grateful for, all day long, you're scanning for, does this rise to the level of gratitude journal? Is this good enough for gratitude journal? Is this going into the gratitude journal? Right? Because all day long, you're going to try to fill your gratitude journal. University of Pennsylvania professor Martin Seligman is the one who actually studied this intensely, and he actually found that the secret to the happiest people are the people who savor the good, the people who identify all the good in their life. And here's what he found, that once you begin creating your gratitude journal, you will see patterns. You will begin to see patterns that keep showing up that then serve as a roadmap for how you should live your life. So for example, when I look at my gratitude journal, this is my gratitude journal, I actually see fireplace in here a lot, my fire. So roadmap is, Darien, have more fires. They make you so happy. You're so grateful for them, right? What I want to tell you is I think people have a challenge with gratitude journal because they try to put things that are too big in them. I'm glad I'm not starving on the street. Yes, I am glad you are not starving on the street too. And we can't fill our gratitude journal with that every day. Okay, the gratitude journal is really meant to capture the little things. Okay, little things. So when I look at my gratitude journal, I actually have in here good umbrella. A good umbrella. I'm happy about that. Movies at home where you can pause. Oh, yeah, because I go to the bathroom a lot and it's nice to be able to pause. So wonderful little things are what we're talking about capturing in your gratitude journal. I highly recommend you try it. You don't have to get a book. You can use your phone. There are plenty of apps, but try it. That's one tool in your toolbox for positive intelligence. Next one, recalling a meaningful experience. Okay, sometimes this exercise is called the doubler because we actually double the experience, the good experience. So here's what we know. Tiger Woods actually taught us this, that our brain doesn't actually know the difference between visualization and actuality. And so when we visualize, it's as if it's actually happening. So when we recall a meaningful event, it's like it's happening again. So the way you use this exercise is you actually journal out with bullet points the meaningful experience you had. So I'm going to tell you my meaningful experience in bullet points. Bullet point. My sister called me on New Year's Eve and told me that her boyfriend proposed. Bullet point. She was giddy. Bullet point. She was squealing and couldn't even find the words. Bullet point. I could not stop smiling. Bullet point. My heart was racing. I was so excited for her. Bullet point. She just kept saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening to me. I'm so excited. That's recalling a meaningful experience. I want to relive that moment every day, right? And when we have that and we can relive it, we have this trajectory of meaningfulness in our life that creates a new neural pathway for positivity. That's what we're going for. Next one, engaging in a conscious act of kindness. This is the most powerful of the positive intelligence exercises because of the trickle-down effect. So it's exactly what you think. It's being kind to somebody else. The way Sean Aker describes doing this exercise is actually engaging in 2 minutes at the beginning of every day, sending something positive to somebody else. So sending an email to someone and telling them how great they are. It's an acknowledgement that goes better to not you're a good person. It is you showed bravery in speaking up in our meeting yesterday. You were tenacious in our project that we worked on together over this last month. Really going to the core of who somebody is. Now we understand why this is so powerful, because when you receive that, right, it lands in a way that makes us blossom as humans, and often we pay that forward. So Sean's research has shown that this has been a very, very impactful positive intelligence exercise, not just to build our own neural pathways, but to create positive community among us. The last thing I would say to you is exercise is a wonderful positive intelligence activity. Now, some of us exercise because we want to be heart healthy. Some of us exercise because we want to lose weight. This is an exercise because I want to have happiness. I want to have more positive thoughts than negative. And here's how it works. It's really at least 15 minutes. It's not this level of exercise that we have to do in order to lose weight. It's getting some energy, getting some mood booster, because our brain registers exercise as an accomplishment and a victory. And that ultimately has a cascading effect, so that all day long it's like, oh, this was good, and this was good, and this was good. That's what exercise does for our brain. So it's another way you can create some positive intelligence. So I encourage all of you to pick one of these exercises, okay? One of them, and do them every day for the next 3 weeks at least. The research shows that you will create the new neural pathway, and it will have a lasting impact on your brain and your ability to think more positively. Okay, so I leave you with that. We covered a lot today, and it is my hope that we were able to really grow your own self-awareness so that you can set yourself up to live your best life and create really intentional goals around what you want to do for 2021. I will remain on the call to answer any questions you have, and I imagine there will be some announcements. So with that, I think I'm right on time to end our presentation.
Thank you, Darien. I wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of your schedules to attend today's session. If you would like a recording of today's session, please reach out to Melissa at AMI. Her contact information is on the registration email. Also be on the lookout for registration for our upcoming session on January 21st with David Bruce. Dave Bruce will be talking about substance abuse, which has become more prevalent and pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Darien will also be back with us on February 4th to teach us to manage ourselves during stressful times with self-regulation. Stay safe and healthy, and remember to take time to practice self-care. And I will go ahead and log off if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask Darien while she remains on the call. Thank you.
Is it better to pick only one of the 4 exercises and stick to that for 30 days, or try multiple ones? Great question. The better thing to do is pick one, stick with one. The better thing to do is pick one rather than jump around. Great question. All right, I see no other questions. Oh, are you seeing an increase in gremlins during COVID? Great question. Anytime we're in stress and in distress, our gremlins are stronger for sure. Because, right, all we see is negative around us. And so our mischief makers come out for sure. So the answer to that question is yes. As a coach, I hear it, but I got to tell you, we all have them. We have them all the time. But it feels a little bit more suffocating in these times, I think, is what I'm actually seeing. I'm not, maybe it's not that they're more prevalent, it's that it feels like we can't get rid of them. So I think that's how I would describe it. Yeah, good. Great question. Any other, thank you for the very kind comments. Does it matter if positive activities are done earlier or later in the day? So it's really interesting question. Sean Akers' research, it's all done in the morning. That's, every time I've read anything about it, the conscious act of kindness is done in the morning. The exercise is done in the morning because of the victory that our body feels. The conscious act of remembering the meaningful experience is usually, oh, that one's done at the end of the day. It's usually a 24-hour review. But gratitude, people say start your day with gratitude. So I don't know the actual research behind that. I don't know if it is that it has to be done, but I will tell you that the way he presents the research is that it was done in the morning for the most part. But I don't know for sure. So someone says, yeah, I can only exercise at night. So your body is gonna still cash it as a win, okay? And so I think maybe what you have to do is say to yourself, hey, I get to exercise today. Look at me, I get this gift of exercise. And you kind of do your own mind winning at the beginning of the day so that you have that trickle down effect. But I hear you. That's just how the research was presented. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only way to get the victory. And maybe you can report back to us if you feel it at the end of the day and that if it carries forward, maybe you can be our test case. Awesome. Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks,
Always
Darien.
have my email if you have any questions and you want to reach out privately. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good afternoon, Nathan.